Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. I want to mention a couple of things today. First of all, I'm continuing with my videos every day. I try to make a video of lecture. I try to keep them short, try to keep them to less than 10 minutes, but a lot of times they end up being longer. It's because once I get on a roll, I have a lot of good things to say. So I just go ahead and say them. Now, my resources are all here. My videos, over 500. Actually, over 600 videos. And the ones I've been making of late are quite good. I finally figured out how to get the picture quality good and how to get the audio good, and so they're very good. They're all good. I mean, all of my lectures are good, but these are even better, quality-wise. Then my radio programs, every week I make a 30-minute radio program, and I have a lot of books. Most of them are on Amazon, about spirituality, about meditation, about finding God, about overcoming stress, about finding your purpose in life, and about repairing your relationships. Okay? Now the question is, you might say, well, how do you know so much? Well, you know what? When I sit down to make a video lecture, I turn it on and then I start talking, and good things come out. And a similar process happens when I write. What I do is I try to find a very spiritual book. If I can find one, which I can, I know a spiritual book when I see it, truly spiritual. And then I read a little bit, just a little bit, a sentence, or two, or three, or four, or a paragraph or two, very small amount, until I see something, I realize something. And then I start to write. And then I type what I wrote on the computer into my manuscript, which is a Word document, and that's how I write my books. So you see, it comes out, it flows out. Now how can it be that I can have this flow of an expression of understanding, of insight, of realization, an expression of a flow that if it awakens you, then you too will see what I saw, okay, which will help you with your stress issues and your relationship issues and so on. So how do you get to that point? Well, it's very simple. You need to be close to the source of wisdom, the source of understanding. See, the source of common sense. And what is that source? You know what it is? It's God. And His light that He sends. He sends His light. He sends His light. And if you receive the light and don't fight it and don't run from it, then that light will enlighten you. The light shines in your mind, and in the light you realize something, and that realization, see, then is the light penetrating you, your mind, your emotions, your being. See, there's a difference between light that simply, you see, you have to receive the light. For example, if you have a dead tree, petrified tree, you can't receive the light. The light shines on it, but it doesn't become living substance. But if you have a live tree, the live tree puts out its leaves to receive the light, because the live tree needs the light and loves the light and uses the light to make more leaves and to make fruit and flowers. See? It receives the light deeply. And that light is then metamorphosized, transmuted into living substance. Now do you understand the phrase, the Word made flesh? The Word made flesh. So if you receive if you have an insight, a realization in the light, it's the aha moment, I see. And it penetrates deeply, okay? And you believe it. You know it's true. You just know in your heart that it's true. And you respond to it, to that realization, to the light, and to the realization that He gave you. And then you live according to what you realized. Okay? Then what will happen is that light then, by way of that realization, and by way of your accepting it and believing it and living it, it then becomes transmuted into substance. It becomes you, in your mind, your emotions, your nerves, your soul, into every cell of your being. Okay? And it changes you. You change. You see, you change. I'll give you an example of change, may I? There's something that I kind of want. Okay? And it's not very expensive. It's only like $9 at Walmart. And I kind of want it, but I don't really need it because I have an old one that still works. The old one has problems, but it still works. But the new one is real nice. Okay? But you know what? I've been looking at it now, and I saw it at another store, and I didn't buy it. And then I saw it at the thrift store, and I didn't buy it. And so weeks have gone by, maybe, well, at least, I'll say at least 6 weeks now have gone by. And I haven't bought it. But you know something? Long time ago, I would have immediately bought it. I would have made all kinds of excuses and rationale why I need to have it, and somewhat legitimate reason for that rationale, but not completely legitimate. Okay, so I didn't spend the money on it. The other day I walked into the store. I was hungry, little bit hungry, and I walked through the store and I walked up and down the aisles and I looked at what they had, and either it wasn't healthy or it was too expensive. I couldn't believe everything was so expensive. And finally I was almost ready to buy a roll that they had for like 33 cents, but even that I didn't buy. See? Now years ago, I would have bought all kinds of stuff. Probably would have bought donuts or potato chips. See, or an expensive sandwich or something. But now I didn't even buy anything. I bought nothing. See? So a change has happened to me over the years. My years of meditating properly, my years of realizing things and seeing things and living them. See, I've changed. So all of a sudden one day I woke up and I was changed. What I once had to do, now I don't have to do anymore. And I don't feel that I'm missing anything. See? So I've been changed in the light, not of my own effort. It's like magic. So how about most people? Well, first of all, most people are so lost in their thinking. They're lost down in thinking, trying to figure things out. They look to the wrong place. They don't look to intuition from God, to insight from God, to the wordless word from God. See, to just-in-time realizations from God, guidance from God, wordless guidance. Okay, they don't look to that. What do they look to? They look to their thoughts and imagination. That's why they're fill their mind with all kinds of knowledge. Then they juggle facts and ideas around in their mind and try to figure things out. And when it doesn't work, and what comes to them is dead. See, it's not fresh, or it's temptation. See, something got into their mind by way of temptation. See, at the end of the day, there should be practically nothing in your mind from the day. Nothing should stick. If things stick, if you have memories of the day, a lot of memories, it's because you reacted emotionally. You fell in those moments. And it was a little trauma. So you became imprinted with a memory of that scene, of that trauma scene where you failed, where you become a little bit irritated, a little bit angry, a little bit excited. See, or a lot excited. So you fail. Or you bought something you shouldn't have bought, or ate something you shouldn't have eaten, and made an excuse. See, denied the truth in order to have what you thought you needed to have. See? So anyway, there shouldn't be all these memories. See? And facts, well, I do read. I enjoy reading. But when I read, I scan things. And most of it goes in one ear and out the other. And if there's something useful there, if there's a nugget of something useful, then somehow I notice that nugget is highlighted, it stands out. And then I remember that nugget, but everything else, it's gone. So when you wake up in the morning, your mind should be fresh, like a little child waking up with no baggage from the past whatsoever. But most people, they react to everything emotionally, and so they have all this trauma, all these little mini and micro traumas all the time, and then everything gets imprinted in their mind, and then they try to use what's in their mind to figure things out. So it doesn't work. So then they look to the experts. But the experts are prideful, and they too have been taught to study, stuff their mind with facts, figures, and formulas, and then look into their mind. So they too are lost. They're more lost than you are because they're more prideful than you are. So what they tell you to do, a lot of times it doesn't work out either. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. Okay? But if it does, then you become dependent on other people for answers. And if it doesn't, then you resent them. See? And you're often worse off. Okay? So that's why people don't get it right, because they look to the wrong source. See, the knowledge from the insights from God, the realizations would be just in time. They would be perfect. See? It would be wisdom. And then if you lived according to that wisdom, well then your life would turn for the better. And the other reason why people don't benefit from the light, which is everywhere, it's universal, God's light is universal, is because they receive it shallowly. Shallowly. It doesn't penetrate. They don't want it to penetrate. See, if it penetrated, for example, if you realized you're wrong, if you realized you're impatient with your kids, or you realize that you're selfish, or you realize that you're being phony with people, or you realize that you're not living your own life, or that you're pursuing the wrong goals, or that you're not being honest, anything that you realize, see, if you really realize that, then it would humble you. It would chasten you. See, it would dash pride. It would dash your pride. See, but people don't want that. That's the last thing they want. So they receive things shallowly. They hear something is true and say, oh yeah. I know that, or oh I did that, or I understand that, or I studied that, or I read that. See, shallow, doesn't penetrate. So they're basically like the petrified tree. Dealing with dead. See, Christ said the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. See, the dead letter of the law. See, there's no life in it, no spontaneity, no wit. And so that's what they're dealing with, juggling around with those dead ideas in their imagination, their intellect. See. And then the other reason, of course, is that people avoid the light when we start to become guilty for not living properly, for not living our own life, for living someone else's life. See, and guilty for avoiding the truth, instead of reason, we look to rationale. So we become guilty for that. And so we begin to feel anxiety when truth dawns, when the light shines on us. And since we don't want to admit we're wrong, so we avoid the light. We avoid intuition. We just say, oh, that's just hunches and intuition, and we just ignore it. We discount it. And no one teaches you about intuition and about God's light. Some people try to, like Einstein. He said very often that his realizations came from intuition. See, and then he used his imagination to think about what he had realized from intuition. See, but they don't tell you that. No, they don't tell you about intuition. Instead, what do they tell you? Study, read books, study, 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 study. See? So they are the blind leaders of the blind. They themselves, see, don't have wisdom, don't have insight, don't have understanding. And then they do unto you what was done to them. So you need to become still for God's light. That's the number one thing you need to do. It says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God, it says. Okay? Be still and realize God. Realize His presence. Realize His goodness, His majesty, His creativity, His greatness. And realize your nothingness, your helplessness. See? Well, a lot of people, they don't want to feel helpless. They don't want to feel like a nothing. But some of us, we don't mind. We're tired of being phonies. See, there comes a time in your life when you may become tired of being a phony. Tired of pretense. And you want the truth, the real truth, regardless of the consequences. See, then you'll accept the truth. Now, the other thing about people is sometimes they have a wake-up call. See, God's light of truth wakes you up. You realize in the light. Instead of being asleep in your imagination and your daydreams and your fantasies and your plans and schemes, your Mad Hatter plans and schemes like Alice in Wonderland, instead of that, why, you wake up and realize truth in God's light. See? Well, some people do have a wake-up call the morning after the night before where you say, oh my God, what have I done, right? Or they have a wake-up call. They have a heart attack or a serious illness. So now they have a wake-up call. See? It sobers them. Who was it? Johnson. What was his name? Johnson, the famous lexicographer, the one who made the famous dictionary. I can't think of his first name now, but he said something like, there's nothing like a hanging in the morning to clear your mind. Okay? So yeah, it's a big wake-up call. Hanging in the morning is a big wake-up call. Serious illness or something like that. It's a wake-up call. So they clean up their act for a while. See, the truth, there was the truth. They couldn't deny it. Well, or, their wife says, I'm going to leave you, or her husband says, I'm going to leave you, or the kids have issues because you've been cruel to them, or you've been impatient with them, didn't have understanding for them, didn't have time for them. Something serious, and it's a big wake-up call. And some people clean up their act for a little while. If they have a heart attack, well, then they start exercising, and they eat better, and see, try to cut back on the stress. But very often, they start to fall back into their old ways before long because they haven't really changed. See, what you need is really change. That's why Christ said you have to be reborn. See, you have to be reborn. You have to have a new nature. You have to, see? So Paul said Paul said, I die daily. In other words, the old nature, the old Adam, it says in the Bible, that old sinful nature that you sin by compulsion. See, you never had a choice. You were born with this prideful nature, this fallen nature, which you inherited from your parents and all the way back to Adam. And it was naturally selfish. See? Naturally prideful. Now, see? And so you didn't have any choice about indulging yourself and making mistakes and all of that. You really didn't have any choice. You tried to restrain yourself, and maybe if you're a decent person, you tried to put a leash on yourself, and act decent, but that nature was still there straining at the leash anyway. So what you need is a new nature. One that instead of responding to temptation now responds to truth and doesn't respond to temptation. See? So you need a new nature. So anyway, you need to become still. May I recommend my meditation? Very special meditation. Okay, to help you to wake up, to become still, to go in a room and sit still. And find God's light. Find your intuition again. You were close to it when you were a little child, but you've lost touch with it because you've been so lost in your imagination and so emotional. You've been lost in thoughts and feelings. Refine your imagination. Refine your intuition. Okay? And then you can start anew. Start anew. Okay? My name is Roland.